Alderney is the most northerly of the Channel Islands. It is part of the Bailiwick of Guernsey, a British Crown dependency. It is 3 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. The area is 3 square miles, making it the third largest island of the Channel Islands, and the second largest in the Bailiwick. It is around 10 miles to the west of La Hague on the Cotentin Peninsula, Normandy, in France, 20 miles to the northeast of Guernsey and 60 miles from the south coast of Great Britain. It is the closest of the Channel Islands to both France and the United Kingdom. It is separated from Cap de la Hague by the dangerous Alderney Race. As of April 2013, the island has a population of 1,903 people and they are traditionally nicknamed vaques after the cows, or else lapins after the many rabbits seen in the island. Formerly, they are known as Ridunians, from the Latin Riduna. The only parish of Alderney is the parish of St Anne, which covers the whole island. The main town, St Anne, is referred to as St Anne's. It features an imposing church and an unevenly cobbled high street. There is a primary school, a secondary school and a post office, and hotels, restaurants, banks and shops. Other settlements include Bray, Krabi, Lungis, Manners and Newtown. History: Alderney shares a history with the other Channel Islands, becoming an island in the Neolithic period as the waters of the channel rose. Formerly rich in dolmens, like the other Channel Islands, Alderney with its heritage of megaliths has suffered through the large-scale military constructions of the 19th century and also by the Germans during the World War II occupation, who left the remains at Les Portiaux unrecognizable as dolmens. A cist survives near Fort Aoeur'gny, and Lungis Common has remains of an Iron Age site. There are traces of Roman occupation including a fort, built in the late 300s, at 49°43 €2 €9 N2 10 €2 36 €3 W above the island's only natural harbour. The etymology of the island's name is obscure. It is known in Latin as Riduna, but as with the names of all the Channel Islands in the Roman period there is a degree of confusion. Riduna may be the original name of Taushu, while Alderney is conjectured to be identified with Sarnia. Alderney Aurigny is variously supposed to be a Germanic or Celtic name. It may be a corruption of Aoeur'gny or Aoeur'gny, which is probably derived from an Old Norse word meaning island near the coast. Alternatively it may derive from 3 Norse elements, Alder, Brenna and a paragraph Y or I. Curiously, Alderney may be mentioned in Paul the Deacon's Historia Langobardorum as Evodia, in which he discussed a certain dangerous whirlpool. The name Evodia may in turn originate from the 7 Haemodi of uncertain identification in Pliny's Natural History or Pomponius Mella's Chronographia. Along with the other Channel Islands, Alderney was annexed by the Duchy of Normandy in 933. In 1042 William the Bastard, Duke of Normandy granted Alderney to the Abbey of the Mont Saint-Michel. In 1057 the Bishop of Coutances took control of the island. After 1204, when mainland Normandy was incorporated into the Kingdom of France, Alderney remained loyal to the English monarch in his dignity of Duke of Normandy. Henry VIII of England undertook fortification works, but these ceased in 1554. Essex Castle perpetuates the name of the Earl of Essex, who purchased the governorship of Alderney in 1591. Prior to the Earl's execution for treason in 1601, he leased the island to William Chamberlain, and Alderney remained in the hands of the Chamberlain family until 1643. From 1612, a judge was appointed to assist the governor's administration of Alderney, along with the Aoeur'gny. The function of the judge was similar to that of the bailiffs of Guernsey and Jersey, and continued until 1949. During the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, Alderney was held by a parliamentary garrison under Nicholas Ling, lieutenant governor. Ling built Government House. The Ducatorates of Jersey acquired the governorship, later passing it to Sir Edmund Andros of Guernsey, from whom the Guernsey family of La Maishoria inherited it, thus establishing a hereditary line of governors that lasted until 1825. Henry La Maishoria prospered through privateering, and moved the harbour from Lungis to Bray, building a jetty there in 1736. Warehouses and dwellings were built at Bray, and the export of cattle generated wealth for the economy. The courthouse was built in 1770 and a school in 1790. A Methodist chapel was constructed in 1790, following John Wesley's visit in 1787. A telegraph tower was constructed above La Fowlerie in 1811, enabling signals to be relayed visually to Le Mans Saint-Étienne Sark and on to Guernsey. Early warning of attack during the Napoleonic Wars was of strategic importance. With the end of those wars, privateering was ended and smuggling suppressed, leading to economic difficulties. The last of the hereditary governors, John Le Mesurier, resigned his patent to the Crown in 1825, and since then authority has been exercised by the States of Alderney, as amended by the Constitutional Settlement of 1948. The British government decided to undertake massive fortifications in the 19th century and to create a strategic harbour to deter attacks from France. These fortifications were presciently described by William Ewart Gladstone as a monument of human folly, useless to us, but perhaps not absolutely useless to a possible enemy, with whom we may at some period have to deal and who may possibly be able to extract some profit in the way of shelter and accommodation from the ruins. An influx of English and Irish labourers, plus the sizable British garrison stationed in the island, led to rapid Anglicisation. The harbour was never completed. The remaining breakwater is one of the island's landmarks, and is longer than any breakwater in the UK. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert visited Alderney on August 9, 1854. The Albert Memorial and the renaming of Rue Grosvenor to Victoria Street commemorate this visit. At the same time as the breakwater was being built in the 1850s, the island was fortified by a string of 13 forts, designed to protect the harbour of refuge. The accommodation quarters of several of the forts have been converted into apartments. 2 are now private homes. And 1, Fort Clonk, at the end of a causeway that can be flooded at high tide, belongs to the Landmark Trust and can be rented for comfortable self-catering holidays for up to 13 persons. Scenes from the film Seagulls over Sorrento were shot at Fort Clonk in 1953. Some of the forts are now in varying stages of dereliction, the most ruined being Les Hommes-à-Florins, perched on outlying rocks, its access causeway and bridge having been swept away long ago. The Mitherba copyright resembles a Crusader castle with its squat round towers. Like many of the forts, it included such apparently anachronistic features as a drawbridge and machicolation, which were still common in military architecture of the period. World War II. In June 1940, the entire population of Alderney, about 1,500 residents, was evacuated. Most went on the official evacuation boats sent from mainland Britain. Some however decided to make their own way, mostly via Guernsey, but due to the impending occupation many found themselves unable to leave and were forced to stay on Guernsey for the duration of the war. A few Alderney people elected not to leave Alderney with the general evacuation. However, boats from Guernsey came and collected them before the German army arrived, on the basis it was best for their personal safety. During the Second World War, the Channel Islands was the only part of the British Commonwealth occupied by Germany. The Germans arrived to a deserted island and began to follow the orders to fortify Alderney as part of Hitler's Atlantic Wall. The Germans built 4 concentration camps in Alderney, sub-camps of the Nuremberg concentration camp. Lager Helgoland and Lager Borkum were used by the Nazi organization Todt and used forced labor to build bunkers, gun emplacements, air raid shelters and concrete fortifications. In 1942, the Lager Norderney camp, containing Russian and Polish POWs, and the Lager Sylt camp, a concentration camp holding Jewish slave laborers, were placed under the control of the SS Hauptsturm for 1/4 Air Maximilian List. Over 700 of a total inmate population of 6,000 lost their lives before the camps were closed and the remaining inmates transferred to Germany in 1944. On the return to their island, Alderney evacuees had little to no knowledge of the crimes committed on their island during the occupation, as by December 1945, the first date civilians could return home. All the slave laborers had been sent away and the majority of the German troops left behind were not senior staff. Evidence, however, was all over the island, with concrete fortifications and graveyards for the prisoners kept there during the occupation. The Royal Navy blockaded the islands from time to time, particularly following the liberation of Normandy in 1944. Intense negotiations resulted in some Red Cross humanitarian aid, but there was considerable hunger and privation during the 5 years of German occupation, particularly in the final months when the Germans themselves were close to starvation. The Germans surrendered Alderney on May 16, 1945, 8 days after the Allies formally accepted the unconditional surrender of the armed forces of Nazi Germany and the end of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich, and 7 days after the liberation of Guernsey and Jersey. 2,332 German prisoners of war were removed from Alderney on May 20, 1945, leaving 500 Germans to undertake clearing-up operations under British military supervision. The population of Alderney was unable to start returning until December 1945 due to the huge clean-up operation that had to take place simply to make the island safe for civilians. When the islanders returned home, they were shocked to see the state of Alderney, with many houses completely derelict due to anything wooden, including front doors, having been burned for fuel by the Germans. Archival and object evidence of the general evacuation in 1940 and the subsequent occupation of Alderney can be found in the Alderney Society Museum. The 4 German camps in Alderney have not been preserved or commemorated, aside from a small plaque at the former SS camp Lager Sylt. One camp is now a tourist camping site, while the gates to another form the entrance to the island's rubbish tip. The other 2 have been left to fall into ruin and become overgrown by brambles. Documents from the ITS archives in Germany show prisoners of numerous nationalities were incarcerated in Alderney, with many dying on the island. The causes of death included suicide, pneumonia, being shot, heart failure and explosions. A series of tunnels also remain in place on Alderney, constructed by forced labor. These are in varying degrees of safety, but are left open to the public and the elements. War crime trials. After World War II, a court-martial case was prepared against ex-SS Hauptsturm for 1/4 Max List, citing atrocities on Alderney. However, he did not stand trial, and is believed to have lived near Hamburg until his death in the 1980s. Since 1945, for 2 years after the end of World War II, Alderney was operated as a communal farm. Craftsmen were paid by their employers, whilst others were paid by the local government out of the profit from the sales of farm produce. Remaining profits were put aside to repay the British government for repairing and rebuilding the island. Resentment from the local population towards being unable to control their own land acted as a catalyst for the United Kingdom Home Office to set up an inquiry that led to the Government of Alderney Law 1948, which came into force on January 1, 1949. The law organized the construction and election of the States of Alderney, the justice system and, for the first time in Alderney, the imposition of taxes. The legislature and judiciary were separated. The position of judge, which had headed the island's government since the resignation of the last governor in 1825, was abolished, and the jurats were removed from their legislative function. As a result of the small population of Alderney, it was believed that the island could not be self-sufficient in running the airport and the Alderney harbour, or providing services that would match those of the UK. Taxes were therefore collected into the general Bailiwick of Guernsey revenue funds at the same rate as in Guernsey, and administered by the States of Guernsey. Guernsey became responsible for providing many governmental functions and services. The 20th century saw much change in Alderney, from the building of the Alderney Airport in the late 1930s to the death of the last speakers of the island's Auregnais language, a dialect of the Norman language. The economy has gone from depending largely on agriculture to earning money from the tourism and finance industries. E-commerce has become increasingly important, and the island hosts the domain name registry for both bailiwicks and over a dozen gambling website operators. One of the gambling websites is Full Tilt Poker, which is currently being prosecuted by the US and Canadian governments. Alderney has a full regulatory authority in operation. As a result of these upheavals and of substantial immigration, the island has been more or less completely anglicized. Politics. The States of Alderney is the legislature of the island. It sends 2 representatives to the States of Guernsey as well. The origin of the states is unknown, but it has operated from the medieval period. The States of Alderney consists of the President, directly elected every 4 years, and 10 States members, half elected every 2 years for a 4-year mandate. The President of the States of Alderney is Stuart Trott. In October 2012 he was re-elected for a further 4-year period. The whole island is a single constituency. Until the reform of 1948, the States of Alderney consisted of, Lieutenant Governor of Guernsey, the Judge, 6 Aoeur'gnys, the officers of the Court of Alderney, 4 Ridunians, a Ridunian delegate, 3 People's Deputies, while Alderney enjoys full autonomy in law, under the provisions of a formal agreement entered into between the Government of Alderney and the Government of Guernsey. Certain matters have been delegated to Guernsey. These are known as the transferred services. Transferred services include policing, customs and excise, airport operations, health, education, social services, childcare and adoption. In return for providing the transferred services, Guernsey levies various taxes and duties on Alderney. Immigration is the responsibility of the UK, with day-to-day operations carried out by the Guernsey Border Agency. In addition to the transferred services, both the UK and Guernsey may legislate on other matters with the consent of the States of Alderney. Law: the Court of Alderney exercises unlimited original jurisdiction in civil matters and limited jurisdiction in criminal matters. The court sits with a chairman and at least 3 of the 6 Aoeur'gnys. Appeals are made to the Royal Court of Guernsey, which also exercises some original jurisdiction in criminal matters in Alderney, and thence to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. Geography and natural history. Alderney is similar to the other Channel Islands in having sheer cliffs broken by stretches of sandy beach and dunes. The highest point is on the central plateau of the island at 296 ft. Its climate is temperate, moderated by the sea, and summers are usually warmer than elsewhere in the British Isles. Alderney and its surrounding islets support a rich flora and fauna. Trees are rather scarce, as many were cut down in the 17th century to fuel the lighthouses on Alderney and the Casquets. Those trees that remain include cabbage trees, due to the mild climate, often miscalled palms, but are the lily family, and there are some small woods dotted about the island. Puffins on burrow and gannets on lesser permeltax just off Alderney are a favourite of many visitors to the island. About a quarter of Alderney hedgehogs are of the white, or blonde variety, which does not carry fleas. These are not albinos, but descent of rarely met blonde European hedgehogs, with a blonde pair released on the island in the 1960s. The island had its own breed of cattle, called the Alderney. The pure breed became extinct in 1944. But hybrids remain elsewhere, though no longer on Alderney. In August 2005, the west coast of Alderney and associated islands, including Burrow and Ortac, were designated as Ramsar wetlands of international importance. The Alderney Wildlife Trust helps to manage the 2 nature reserves, at Lungus and Valduso. The island is surrounded by rocks, which have caused hundreds of wrecks. There are treacherous tidal streams on either side of the island, the Swint between Alderney and Burrow, just outside the harbour, and Le Raz between the island and the Normandy mainland. The Corbett Rock lies in the Swinge. The geology of Alderney is mostly granites from the Precambrian period. Culture, language: Auregnais, the insular dialect of the Norman language, is no longer widely used, with an estimated 20 fluent speakers or fewer. Generally, it has been more a spoken than a literary language, and as such, only a few poems and written works can be found in it. French is no longer spoken on the island. It ceased to be an official language locally in 1966. French declined not only from neglect, especially in schools, but also because most of the population was evacuated in the Second World War. Hahowever, many if not most of the local place names are in French or Auregnais. 1 or 2 words linger on in the Channel Island English, for example Vraig, and the pronunciation of certain local names, for example Dupont as Dippo rather than in the traditional Parisian fashion. Sport, golf, fishing and other water sports are popular, and there are many clubs and associations for sports and other leisure activities. Alderney competes in the biannual Island Games. Every September, The Alderney Air Races attract a number of aircraft to compete in the deciding and final round for the European Air Racing Championship, organised by the Royal Aero Club. This involves high-speed circuits round the airfield, lighthouse, cascades and then back around. The Alderney Community and Sports Centre is currently planned, with building costing £2.2 million and starting in March 2012. This would include a swimming pool, 2 bowling lanes and facilities within a sports hall for archery, indoor football, indoor tennis and also badminton. Pubs. Due in part to the tourist industry but mainly to the Ridunians' own drinking culture, there are many restaurants and public houses. There is a vibrant and lively nightlife which is enjoyed by many especially in the summer, and informal dance music events often take place in abandoned bunkers and more organised events in and around Alderney Week at the Corporation Quarry. It was one of the last places in the British Isles to introduce a smoking ban in pubs, shops, restaurants and other indoor public places. The States of Alderney passed the anti-smoking legislation with the President's casting vote on January 13, 2010. The legislation came into force at 4 a.m. on June 1, 2010. The island has an aging population and is popular with people wanting somewhere quiet to retire. Because it is quiet and secluded, Alderney has attracted some famous residents, including authors T.H. White and Elizabeth Beresford, cricket commentator John Arlott, cricketer Sir Ian Botham, Beatles producer Sir George Martin, actress Dame Julie Andrews, and Olympic swimmer Duncan Goodhue. Alderney Week is celebrated from the Saturday before the first Monday of August, when a number of events take place. Each year the organisers pick a different theme. The first Saturday begins with a parade and children's sports day. There is a disco on the green and a quarry party starting at 11 p.m. with a Woodstock theme. People dress in costume or just in wacky clothes. The Sunday is the day of a traditional street market. A mixture of traditional toffee apples and bric-a-brac is laid out up and down the main street. Clothes, ice creams, sweets and jewelry are all sold from tables in the street, and with dancing by the KFA, the Miss Holiday Princess competition and live entertainment. Cavalcade Day takes place on the Monday, on which residents and organisations construct parade floats based upon a particular theme, before walking them through the high street and onto the green. Judging and prize giving takes place up there, as well as games, stalls and burger vans. The Alderney Blowers give a full concert, and there is a car and bike show. Tuesday events may include auditions, Shakespeare in the Gardens and sporting activities. Wednesday often includes the Daft Raft Race, though it changes days often to get the right tide. Participants build the wackiest crafts they can think up to sail around 2 buoys in 3 great races whilst being pelted with flower bombs, water bombs and hoses from the lifeboat. Although the races are friendly, many attempts at sabotage have been made, which range from standing in the way of launch, to drilling holes in the previous year's winners the night before. In the evening is the extravaganza, a show of sketches and acts about Alderney, the theme, and inter-island competition. For many, the man-powered flight is the main focus of Thursday's events. Machines vary from the beautifully decorated to ones that might actually fly, although the furthest flying usually fly no more than a metre or 2. There is a duck race. In the evening is the Battle of the Bands, with both local and visiting bands taking part. It is held in the quarry, where people of all ages go to dance, cheer, and sit around the bonfire. Friday is given over to the sandcastle competition. The competitors are split into age groups, 0-5, 5-7, 7-10, 10-13 and adult, and time limits set for each group. The evening is given over to entertainment by the talented. The Under-16 talent show is held early on, followed by the Alderney X Factor at 9 p.m. The torchlight procession, on the Saturday evening of the week, sees a parade of people walking through the town centre, carrying torches towards a large bonfire upon the green. The evening ends with a fireworks display and an open-air music event held in a disused quarry. This starts at midnight and finishes at 8 a.m. the next morning, although it has been known to continue on until 10 a.m. with some nocturnal people, who use the radio for music. Other people make their way to the airport for their flight in the sleeping bags they slept in on the nearest soft floor they could find. Regular entertainment during Alderney Week includes, the Alderney Blowers play every year. These are a group of musicians who fly from England every year to play throughout Alderney Week. Live music, dance acts and the very popular pig races, Alderney Annual Motor Sprint and Hill Climb. Every year in mid-September Alderney hosts a motorsport weekend which is organised and run by the Guernsey Kart and Motor Club. The event has been running for over 20 years. This event proves very popular with mainly Guernsey drivers who come over to Alderney in their high-powered cars, motorbikes, sidecars and karts. This event is not just open to Guernsey residents but anyone who has a racing licence etc. Details can be found on the Guernsey Kart and Motor Club website. Race vehicles are transported to Alderney on Alderney shipping's ship a couple of days before the events. On the Friday the sprint is held at the normally public roads of Fort Corbelets in the north of the island. The road is closed for the day while the event is on and then reopened at night. The following day a hill climb is held at Fort Aoeur'gny in the west of the island. This again is normally a public road which is again closed for the day. Both events are very fast and very competitive and much loved by the drivers. Many spectators travel from Guernsey to cheer on their friends and family. Many local Alderney people watch as the closed roads have vehicles racing at high speed where normally speed limits of 35 mph apply. Saturday evening, once the day's racing has finished, has an award ceremony where drivers are presented with trophies for their 2 days hard racing. This is also a good chance to relax and unwind. Miss Alderney is chosen during the Easter holiday weekend each year at a public event held at the Island Hall. Online application ensures complete anonymity until the winner is announced. Miss Alderney is chosen by a panel of judges made up by non-residents holiday makers. Alderney Stones. In April 2011, sculptor Andy Goldsworthy completed a project called Alderney Stones, commenced in 2008, in which 11 large dried earth spheres were placed at different sites on the island. The intention is that each stone will gradually erode, at different speeds depending on the location, and in some cases revealing objects buried inside. Goldsworthy has stated that he selected Alderney as it seems to have a strong sense of layered past and a wide variety of locations in a small area. Transport. Alderney is served by Alderney Airport. There are several flights each day from Southampton, Jersey and Guernsey, with links to many parts of the United Kingdom and Europe. Aurigny Air Services serves the island with Britain-Norman Trilanders. Boats sail regularly between the island and France, and to the other Channel Islands. A high-speed passenger ferry is operated in summer by the French company Manches Express to Dia, copyright let in the commune of Flamanville, Manche in France, and to St. Peter Port, Guernsey. Weekly freight services, also carrying passengers, are operated by Alderney Shipping to Poole and St. Peter Port. A 12-passenger boat, the Lady Maris II, operates regular services to Cherbourg, Sark and St. Peter Port. Alderney is 72.5 mi from St. Malo and 70.3 mi from Poole. There are also frequent boat trips available. Main Brace, a Chandler's, provides water taxi services and water and fuel to visiting yacht crews. This can get quite hectic during the peak months of June, July and August as nearly 30,000 yacht crew members visit this harbour every year. Due to the island's size, vehicular transport is often unnecessary, although taxis, cars and bicycles are used. The Alderney Railway is the only remaining railway in the Channel Islands providing a timetabled public service, with scheduled trains to the lighthouse during the summer and special occasions such as Easter and Christmas. The railway brings a number of tourists to the island each year in the form of railway enthusiasts. During the summer season, there is an occasional bus service around the island. Alderney allows people to ride motorbikes and mopeds without helmets and drive cars without seat belts, but it is compulsory for under 18s to wear helmets. The International Vehicle Registration Code is GBA. Healthcare and emergency services. Emergency services can be called on 112 or 999. Ambulance. The Street John Alderney Ambulance Service operates the ambulance service on the island, and is staffed by volunteers. It has served Alderney since 1952 and is registered as a private company. Patients are transferred to the McNaught Memorial Hospital in St Anne, and any having major complications are then transferred to Guernsey or Southampton by the Aurigny Air Services on a 24-hour emergency basis. In the event of bad weather preventing an air evacuation, the transfer is achieved with the aid of the Aurigny lifeboat service. However, there is currently no paramedic service available on the island. Fire service. The Alderney Voluntary Fire Brigade has a crew of 10 volunteer firefighters, and a fleet of 1 water tender, 2 further water carriers and also 1 Land Rover Defender. A new station was officially opened by Lt General Sir John Foley, the Lieutenant Governor of Guernsey, on October 20, 2004. Located near Bray Harbour, it gives an average response time of just 9 minutes and includes 4 appliance bays, a workshop, kit room, mess and a training room. The Alderney Airport Fire and Rescue Service is sometimes called to help with larger conflagrations. Police. Because of Alderney's low crime rate, day-to-day policing of Alderney is provided by a team of 5 locally based officers from the Guernsey Police, consisting of a sergeant in charge, 2 constables, and 2 special constables. They are assisted by visiting constables from Guernsey on a regular basis. The police station is in Queii Street. Lifeboats. The Alderney Lifeboat Station was established in 1869, closed in 1884 and re-established in 1985 by the Aurigny, which serves Alderney with its all-weather Trent-class lifeboat Roy Barker I. Search and rescue. Search and rescue services are provided by Channel Islands Air Search, which uses a Briton-Norman islander to search large areas of water using infrared cameras and a number of other technologies. Formed in 1980. It is staffed entirely by volunteers and is based in Guernsey. When a major search is underway, the French Coast Guard and the Royal Navy are often also involved, coordinated by the Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre in Joburg, France. Numismatic history. Alderney pound and coinage. Postal orders of Alderney. In popular culture, in the song Alderney on her 2013 album The Sea Cabinet, Gwyneth Herbert tells the story of the sudden evacuation of Alderney's inhabitants during the Second World War. She sings about the Nazi occupation of the island and the move of 6,000 Labour camp inmates into the homes of the people who had left, the scarring of Alderney's coastline with huge concrete buttresses and, finally, after liberation of the island, the emotional return of the evacuated inhabitants, who find the landscape of their home irreparably changed. In the Rockstar Games game Grand Theft Auto 4 set in Liberty City, in the West, there is an island and state by the name of Alderney which is based on New Jersey, as the 2 provinces are Channel Islands. Photos. See also, List of subcamps of Nuremberg concentration camp. For further information on Nazi treatment of Jews and other people, see Holocaust. Alderney Steam Packet Company. The island is a key locale in the 1975 Jack Higgins novel The Eagle Has Landed. References, Line. General, The Alderney Story, 1939–1949, Michael St. John Pack and Morris Dreyfus. The Alderney Society and Museum decided shortly after its inception in 1966 to collect all reliable reminiscences, whether written or verbal, lest with the passage of time they would be lost. Alderney Place Names. Royston Raymond, 1999. Alderney ISBN 0-9537127-0-2, Noms de lieu de Normandy, Rena. Copyright Lapelli, 1999. Paris ISBN 2-86253-247-9, external links, Alderney official site, visitor information, Alderney language. For further information on Alderney concentration camps, see Christine O'Keefe, Appendix F, Concentration Camps, Endler paragraph sung =The Final Solution, retrieved 2009-06-06 Matisson Consultants. Aoeur'gny. Un camp de concentration nazi sur une registered trademark La Anglo-Normande, retrieved 2009-06-06 A.